All right. Well, hi, folks. Steven here. So, yes, things probably do look a little bit different here. We're trying a different audio setup that I think will be a bit more reliable on my end. Um, in case you're curious, I'm using a tablet to get my actual audio in because, strangely enough, it seems like it actually does better than and is more um, reliable and whatnot than the using my computer to do that. The only downside is I can't get it to recognize a camera, even if I have like a USB hub there and stuff. So, but appreciate your patience. We did want to do this last night, but unfortunately, Anne ran into some problems that we won't go into details on. Um, she, but um, as a result, we had to move it to this afternoon. So we appreciate your accommodations and whatnot there. Let's see. Aside from all that, but obviously this afternoon we're going to be doing our discussion of the music of Pokemon 25, the album. This, of course, came out last month, about a week after Secrets of the Jungle, which will be a point of discussion. I think we have some things to say, but as usual, Anne and I have each picked out 3 tracks from the album. So we're covering, well, it depends. The CD version has fewer tracks than the digital version, and there's probably a technical reason for that, but it's a good chunk of this. And technically, it's not done. Although I don't know if this is really part of Pokemon 25 music, but tomorrow Ed Sheeran is doing a concert in Pokemon Go, so it kind of just keeps going on. But Anne, I do, like I said, I usually leave a few minutes here at the start to catch up on some things with the audience, just so that we have some time, hopefully, to get in here before we start the actual discussion. Anne, why don't you give a little update on yourself?
Yeah, I'm Ann Werner. I run Pikapi podcast, Pokemon anime podcast. So that's the angle that I usually bring to these discussions. Um, but yeah, I'm there's not much to update on my end, unfortunately. It's kind of the work, listen to Pokemon music, podcast about it, work.
Yeah. Well, I guess I may as well go over some of the stuff I've released recently. So earlier this month, there was an episode where I got out our Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness discussion, um, which a very interesting game there. And then let's see, it actually ended up being kind of good time. Speaking of Pokemon Go, they just recently put out Shadow Lugia, although it does not look nearly as cool as it does in that game. If you get to it, I still have to make a little more progress in the game before I can get to that point. Prior to that, let's see, I did have our discussion of whatchamacall, Pokemon Troze and Insert a Pokemon song, which was kind of fun. And also last month, I did get to talk to Paul Umbach, who co produced or whatever, Have Some Fun with the Funk by Aaron Carter, which of course was on the Pokemon the first movie soundtrack.
hmm
Um, let's see. And then let's see. So since we had this last month, we also recorded, if you look through the archives, our discussion of the music of Pokemon Secrets of the Jungle, which we will be referencing here, despite this album not having a super title-based connection to it. There are some definite things um, and such. All right. Well, I don't want to take too much longer here. Hopefully, if you're watching this on the restream, thank you very much. If you're watching this live, you can always post a comment either way. And if you're live here, we will definitely try and work those into discussion. Otherwise, if you post a comment or send us an email, pokepress@gmail.com, we will try to work that into a future discussion. We do have some feedback from our Secrets of the Jungle and a little bit of other stuff to go over in this discussion. But I think we're just about ready to get started here. So let me boot up my voice recorders. Let's see. Yes, that's the correct folder there. And boot up the other one. All right, Anne, are you about ready on your side?
I am.
Okay, let me go ahead and move that down just a notch there. And go ahead and hit record on these. All right. So we will leave a bit of a pause and then I will do the introduction. Hi, folks. Steven here. I'm on the phone with Anne from Pikapi Podcast. And let's see. Sorry about that. Hi, folks. Steven here. I'm on the phone with Anne from Pikapi Podcast. And in our last discussion, we discussed the music of Pokemon Secrets of the Jungle. And not long after that, they released Pokemon 25, the album, which is what we're going to be talking about here. We do another slightly different intro there just to give some options in editing.
Okay.
Hi, folks. Steven here. I'm on the phone with Anne from Pikapi Podcast. And in our ongoing Pokemon music discussion series, now that we've discussed Secrets of the Jungle, the movie, about a week after, they decided to release Pokemon 25, the album, which may or may not be connected. We'll sort of go into that as time goes on. But in any case, Anne and I have made some song selections, as we usually do, and we've each picked 3 of the songs from there. But before we get too deep into that, let's sort of go over how this, But before we go into specific songs, let's talk about sort of the, I guess you could say, life cycle of this album. Now, as I recall, it was announced very early this year in. Now, as I recall, it was announced relatively early this year, either in January or February, with first of all, they were going to be collaborating with Katy Perry. And not long after, for Pokemon Day weekend, they did that concert with Post Malone. But Anne, what were your sort of thoughts when this project was announced earlier in 2021?
Like at the beginning, I was a little ambivalent because I don't know, I guess I didn't really realize the scope of what it could be. I was just like, oh, they're collaborating with Katy Perry. That's great. Like, I guess I didn't. I didn't really picture in my mind like what it could be. I just kind of like, oh, that's a cute little gimmick. So, kind of as more information dropped and as the songs themselves started dropping, that's when I really started to get excited about it.
Well, I think they announced, like in the original announcement, that there was going to be some sort of album-based release towards the end of the year. I forget exactly where that was, but I do follow current popular music a little bit here and there, not as much as I used to when I was younger. But I found it pretty interesting. I figured Pokemon actually would not have too much difficulty finding folks for this since they were working with Universal Music. And to be honest, a lot of folks in their mid-20s to early 30s grew up with Pokemon. So I think they could very easily find volunteers to do this. They might not get everyone they wanted, but you mentioned sort of the releases. Well, first there was that Post Malone concert, and with that, a couple of his songs, including a cover of "Always Want to Be with You," originally by Hootie and the Blowfish from 1996. They sort of picked it because that was the year the games came out in Japan. And then over the course of the year, they did more releases. They did some music videos as well. Over the summer, they released a couple EPs of a couple of the songs. And then kind of finally in October of 2021, they released the album itself. And what did you sort of think of that kind of release strategy just overall?
I really loved it. Like, again, starting with Katy Perry was kind of a good move because, again, that's a big name artist. And as I said, just like an interesting gimmick. But again, as the releases started pouring out over the year, along with all their other Pokemon 25 events and things, like excitement really started to build. And I think by September, when the Game Girl dropped by the French artist, what's her name, Luan, like that's when I really started to kind of really get into it, because like I think a lot of other people did as well, because you're like start to realize like how big of a project this is and that it's truly an international thing. We've got tracks in many different languages, and like Yeah, I really liked this release project. Like just spreading it out over the year and showcasing many different angles.
Yeah, I think my expectations were maybe a little more modest. I wasn't quite as excited. There were parts I definitely liked as time went on. And I guess I should also mention this is technically not the last release of this album. If you buy the CD edition, you notice it doesn't have everything that's on the digital version of the album. And it appears the reason for that is in February of next year, February 2022, around Pokemon Day, they're going to be releasing a vinyl version of the album. And, vinyl records have less capacity than CDs. So but they wanted to keep them, I guess, parallel or stuff like that. So I was also kind of maybe hoping more stuff would actually make it onto the Billboard charts and stuff like that. But we can kind of talk about the reception to this a little bit later. One other expectation I wanted to throw out there is that, we mentioned that the album released about a week after Secrets of the Jungle dropping on Netflix, and I was very curious to know if things would tie in there. Now we'll have some specific comments on specific songs, but just knowing that Secrets of the Jungle had a bunch of places for insert songs kind of makes that something that crossed my mind a lot. I don't know about you, Anne. Did you have thoughts in that area as things were coming out, or
Like about them crossing over with Secrets of the Jungle. I kind of expected, but we can talk about what actually happened after I heard the songs. I did expect that to happen more than it actually did.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. There are some definite parallels, but as we go through the songs, I think we'll sort of cover the gamut of things there.
Mm.
Speaking of which, we each did pick out 3 songs from the album. Let's see. I picked out Take It Home by Mabel, Got 'Em by Vince Staples, and Wonderful by Sin. And what did you pick out?
I picked Electric by Katy Perry, Reconnect by Yaffle, and Believing by Little Boat. Little Boat.
I have Little Yachi actually down for that one.
Yeah, that's well, when we get into that history of the artist, we'll get into that.
Okay.
But it's
Sounds
like credited as Little Boat on the track list for some reason. So
interesting. All right. Well, we're going to start with one of Anne's picks, which is Electric by Katy Perry. Now, we are going to give a little bit of biographical info on all these artists. However, since there's 6 songs to get through, we can't go quite as in detail as we do during some of our movie discussions or game discussions, unfortunately. But Anne, I'm sure most of the audience has at least heard of Katy Perry, but tell us a little bit about her, and then you can talk about the song.
Yeah, Katy Perry, born Catherine Elizabeth Hudson from Santa Barbara, California. Very famous American pop singer, known for many, many, many hits. Yeah, I think we all know enough about her, so I'm just going to talk about the song. Let's see. So, yeah, this is Electric, and it's just this very beautiful pop song with a lot of lyrics about like going on a journey and getting through things together, long road, got a ways to go, and kind of chronicling like the idea that the journey is more important than the destination. Like there's no reason that the little steps along the way can't be exciting and magical and electric. I really love this song. I love the beat. I love the melody. I like it so much.
Yeah, the lyrics and stuff and the music. I'm not sure exactly what genre you would say this kind of falls into. It's definitely a pop song, but I'm not sure if you're tossing it into a subgenre, what exactly you would call it.
Right, because it's not a dance track. I don't know if I'd call it a power ballad necessarily, but
yeah. Content-wise, it matches up well with a lot of songs like "Making My Way Any Way That I Can" and other stuff. There are some very nice touches there, like if you always stay here, nothing's ever changing, and other stuff like that. Were there some particular lines that really stood out to you, Anne?
Um, yes. The main chorus line, of course, "There's no reason that this life can't be electric," was um the big one. And then kind of that first verse, well, both verses really, but like that first verse where it talks about, you want to be the best, but at what cost? If you're going to stay here, nothing's ever changing. Kind of that idea of like, big world, got to see it all, get up even when you fall. Like, it's okay to leave your comfort zone and not be the best for 5 minutes so that you can learn something new. And that second verse, there's a long road, it's a ways to go, but you're not alone. There's so much you'll discover. Like, I don't know, that stuck out to me. Just again, that idea that, we all want to be the very best, like no one ever was, but those journeys take time, and that's okay. And the steps getting there can be just as electrifying as the victory podium.
Now, another thing we definitely have to mention, this song, like about, I don't know, it depends how you count, because some of them are just lyric videos and stuff like that, has an official music video that was produced that was, I mean, well, given the pandemic and whatnot, they did go out to Hawaii, which I'm sure is a lot easier than maybe logistically than maybe even some Caribbean places, just because of the travel restrictions and whatnot. But Katy went out there and whatnot. Why don't you sort of describe the content of this music video?
Yeah, so it kind of opens up with a very, I don't know about jungle necessarily, but like a lot of woods and forest and plant life, and then the beach, and then she's by a lighthouse. And then it like flashes back to like presumably her in the past, where she's like starting out playing music with, Pokemon by her side, and kind of growing up and exploring the world around her. So is this the same music video you're thinking of, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I only know of this one music video for the song anyway, but
Right.
yeah.
But yeah, like um a lot of tropical like locations, a lot of a young person kind of going on their journey to be good at something, and with Pokemon by their side, and exploring and discovering together with the Pokemon.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements like that. I forget who plays the younger version of Katy in the video, but of course the younger version has a Pichu, and the older current version has a Pikachu, which is obviously a nice touch. There's a whole lot of that there. We mentioned sort of the tropical slash jungle, so I assume that was an intentional choice, as was the lighthouse that you see in the video, which I'm sure is a reference to Jasmine and the um, and the Ampharos thing in Generation 2. Um, Overall, I did like the production on the video. It was pretty fun to watch and stuff. Any other particular thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I don't know that I have much more to say except gushing about it, so I'll leave it there.
All right, well, let's go to the first of my picks. This is Take It Home by Mabel. I believe that's how it's pronounced. She has less of a history than Katy Perry for sure, but she's lived various places in Europe. She's typically credited as like a British or English singer from there, but she like was born in Spain and lived a few other places in there, like Sweden. One of her more well-known singles before this project is called Finders Keepers. She is working on a second album, or has it produced, or I'm forget exactly what state it's in currently. But as far as Take It Home, this is a very, I guess dance might be a good way to describe it. There's a lot of heavy beats and drum work in it. It's, like I said, still very much a pop song, and stuff like that. I think, it seems to be catering more to not necessarily the female demographic, but sort of the showy aspects of the Pokemon franchise. We'll talk about the music video in a little bit. But it definitely, lights, camera, action, star of this attraction. and stuff like that. Maybe it's also trying to lean toward contests as well. And that was a bit of a jumble of thoughts, but what are your kind of reactions?
My reaction is very much the same. Like, I really love this song. There's definitely a vibe about it that feels very in the vein of the fun aspect of Pokemon, but like lyrically, it's just not there. So I think like even saying it's about contests is almost like a bit of a reach, but there is something about it that does make me feel like I'm in a Pokemon world about the song. But yeah, I'm always a little bit like there's not much in the lyrics that suggests that. So I'm a little on the fence about this one.
Well, my reaction is that it seems to be something of a Jigglypuff song, and one of the things, I mean, there's the la la la, but that she talks about, but also the up up up, which Jigglypuff is the balloon Pokemon, and the way that it says up 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 there is kind of reminiscent. Reminds me of, like, I think it's Jigglypuff's sound it makes while it's jumping in Smash Brothers.
That's
Kind of
right.
reminds me of that cadence and a little bit of that sound there. And when you get to the music video, actually, they kind of go really into that. It has a bit of an arc to it. She's at a hotel. She's watching TV with it has like Gigantamax, Pikachu, and Celebi. Another little tie there to Secret to the Jungle that I noticed even without having seen the movie. I knew Celebi had a part in it. And then most of the rest of the video does focus a lot around the singer's sort of partnership with Jigglypuff. There has some dancers in some interesting outfits. I had actually looked up when around the time this music video came out. I think it was right around Pokemon Go Fest weekend in July. I could be wrong about that. The Pokemon just announced some leggings, and I tried to compare them against the video to see if they were using the same thing. And it doesn't look like it. That would have been some pretty crazy synergy there, not unheard of or anything. But going back to the video itself, it's got dancers. I'd say it's got sort of somewhat of maybe an Indian, and by that I mean the country vibe to it. And what were your kind of thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can see a little bit of Bollywood influence in kind of the dancing and the costuming. Um, yeah, and yeah, no, now that you bring up like thinking of the song as being from Jigglypuff's point of view, like that makes a lot more sense. I do love the outfits of the dancers, like just like how they all seem to be different elements, different Pokemon types, kind of inspired. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, they were all differently colored pretty much, which is
Yeah.
obviously, gives it more visual impact and stuff.
Mhm.
Although I think lyrically this song is more from the perspective of Jigglypuff's trainer or whatever like that, if we're going in that direction.
Maybe.
Um, Now there are a couple like alternate versions of this song as well. There's a ZHU or Zoo, I think is how it's pronounced, remix. But actually, what I found most interesting is about within a week or so after the music video was posted up, they posted up a studio-based video, which is an acoustic version, which I guess is something that Mabel does out for a lot of her songs. And I actually, to be honest, kind of like that version more. And I did link you to this one. What did you think of it?
It's adorable. There's something about the acoustic version that just really feels very sweet and charming, and I like it a lot. I It's hard to tell if I like it necessarily better, but I definitely like it equally.
Yeah, having the two versions there, one serves as sort of a counterpoint for the other. The phrase I put down actually for the acoustic version was lullaby-ish, which is kind of an interesting choice of words that I did somewhat, I guess, intentionally. Since this is, at least based on the video, going for a Jigglypuff type of song, we kind of got to compare it to the other, like, official, well, I don't know of any Japanese Jigglypuff based songs out there, which seems kind of strange, other than obviously the song that sings in the anime, but I mean like actual produced songs. Here on the Western side, we have two of them, really. There's Lullaby by Willa Ford, slash Manda. And then there's also Song of Jigglypuff from the Totally Pokemon slash Pokemon 3 soundtrack. How do you think this song kind of compares to both of those? Bearing in mind that the Willa Ford one on the first movie soundtrack was not, as far as I know, written as a Pokemon song, but obviously the Song of Jigglypuff was. I don't know, Anne. What's kind of your answer there?
It's hard to compare them. I mean, I think if we're talking about which ones I like personally, I'm more on this. I'm more for Take It Home. It's hard to say because Lullaby, like, or not Lullaby, the Song of Jigglypuff and Lullaby both really seemed to really fit that character of Jigglypuff that we've established in the anime. They are hard to compare, but I know which one I want to listen to the most, and that is Take It Home.
Well, Take It Home. It's hardly. I wouldn't have chosen it most likely if I thought it was bad or anything. But I think Lullaby, despite, like I said, to the best of my knowledge, not being written for the movie or for the character, I think I enjoy listening to it a fair bit. We'll be talking about it presumably in an upcoming discussion because I have some things I want to say about Lullaby more specifically. But moving on, the next one on Anne's side is Believing by Little Boat or Little Yachi. Why don't you go into that a little bit? Because it sounds like there's some odd biographical info.
Yeah, so this American rapper, his original name is Miles Parks McCollum. But yeah, he's gone by Little Yachi, Little Boat, also Phase Boat or Faze Boat, however, I'm not quite sure how he pronounces that. But yeah, he's a rapper from Atlanta, Georgia. Kind of started really coming into recognition in 2015 with a debut album, Summer Songs, and released a debut mixtape, Lil Boat, in 2016. And yeah, he's kind of just been slowly working up with his career. Released I think 4 studio albums now, has been nominated for a Grammy for his work on a song called Broccoli. And he's kind of both criticized and praised for kind of having a sort of weird and unique individuality and kind of leaning into it rather than, fighting against it and try to be like the cool, tough guy rapper all the time. And it says he's been a Pokemon fan for a while, which might be a bit of how he got involved in this.
Yeah, going into the song itself, I put down a genre of like electropop with obviously a lot of vocoder or autotune, as it's sometimes called, in there. I assume, Anne, you find that's an accurate assessment of the genre of this one.
Yeah, like it's kind of a genre of music that gets a lot of different names, and I'm not always sure where the crossover is. I think he calls it bubblegum trap. But yeah, it's kind of like that, trap, pop, rap, urban, lots of influences in here, and just very fun. The second that heavily processed vocals hit me, I knew I was gonna prick this song. So I have a weakness. So.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of the lyrical content then. I will say that, well, this is not my favorite song on the album by any stretch. I do enjoy the hook. Once you're breathing, don't stop believing. I do like that a lot. Do you have some thoughts of your own, Anne?
Yeah, so this song hit me with some very big Detective Pikachu vibes. A lot of songs on this album did, like more so than Secrets of the Jungle, which kind of surprised me. But there's something about this track that lyrically it's not necessarily the most connected to Pokemon. It does have kind of a little bridge break where they kind of list some of the names of Pokemon and stuff. But there's something about it that just kind of suggests that there are people living in the Pokemon world who are not necessarily all, quote, trainers. There's something about, like, this is the type of music you'd hear on the radio. Were you living in, like the Detective Pikachu world or something. So I kind of picked it for that reason, because it sounds like not necessarily like a song that was written for a Pokemon release event, but a song that was written within the world of Pokemon itself, and that's kind of an interesting quality to me.
Yeah, that makes.
Does it make sense?
Well, it makes some sense. I mean, first of all, yeah, obviously, I'm sure that some of the folks here got some hints on Secrets of the Jungle, particularly Sin, since she did a couple songs that were specifically in there. Obviously, they would all have had a chance to see Detective Pikachu by now, and I'm sure that was a big deal for a lot of them. But going into the kind of lyrics there, it's kind of a love song of sorts, which, it obviously can be taken with the Pokemon references as extraordinarily cheesy.
Yeah.
In there, I think he's comparing like his girlfriend to Jigglypuff, that she's as cute as that, and his heart is burning like the Charmander line or something like that is in there. Now, granted, Pokemon came out when I was a little further into, all the way pretty much into high school. So maybe this makes a little more sense to someone who's a little bit younger and, has feelings for the Pokemon franchise that are more intertwined with, I guess, early puberty or something like that. Those are just some thoughts there. So I don't know, Anne, if you have a reaction, but
well, that's actually an interesting thing that you said, because I've read some of the like critical responses to Little Yachty's work, and like one of the criticisms / praises of his debut mixtape is like he kind of has kind of all the rawness and unpolishedness, and kind of almost even cheesiness and angst of like a teenager going through the world, like, and in that sense relates very well to young people. And again, it was both a praise and a criticism, but it's kind of seeing this song in that light. Yeah, like there's kind of a youthfulness and a cheesy high school, like my girlfriend's as cute as Jigglypuff sense to it. So I don't know, it's an interesting way to look at it from that lens.
Yeah, so I can certainly see both perspectives as it relates to this song. Not that, I mean, we've had, I think, more Pokemon music from the female perspective, I guess. That obviously we have like Misty's song, and then on the flip side, he drives me crazy, kind of from that perspective. We have had male singers doing love songs in Pokemon. Particularly, the first movie has a number of like boy band type stuff that treads that area. So I guess this is kind of going for that. I don't hate it or anything. I kind of would have preferred, though, if it were more of a, when you have that hook, don't stop believing, to have it be more of a, fight for what you believe in, make the world a better place. I think that was kind of the song I wanted to go based on the hook there, rather than what it was. So that's probably one reason I'm not as impressed or enthralled by it.
That makes sense.
All right, well, let's go to my second pick, which is Got 'Em by Vince Staples. So let's see. Vince, as far as his history, he's originally from the Los Angeles area. Just to briefly get into the lyrics song, he mentions that he's a North Side youth. He was born in Compton and eventually moved out to Long Beach. So I don't know when he says that if he means he's from the north side of Long Beach or the north side of the LA Metro or something like that. I'm not sure exactly how all that does fit together. He is actually, he's kind of honest that he used to be involved when he was growing up in actually some of the gangs in that area, and sort of talks about how that wasn't a great decision on his part, even though he didn't get in too much trouble. It was not really a positive experience for him. Just want to kind of point that out. And just to sort of lead into the song discussion, this is actually a bit of a darker song, not only on this album, but just Pokemon in general, and not in a way that we see with like, the Team Rocket song from To Be a Master, or Do You Really Want to Play from Totally Pokemon, or perhaps some of the more played for laughs rap Pokemon songs that fans sometimes have done on the internet and stuff like that. This is not that. It's really not the darkest thing it could be. There's no like hard swearing or even really light swearing in there. But it is a rap song with sort of an ethereal kind of background. And what was your kind of reaction to just the overall sound of this song?
Yeah, I immediately compared it kind of to the first movie album and how like the music in that album kind of reflect what was popular at the time. And this song, I think more than any of them kind of reflects just the way the styles of music have changed over the last say 25 years. Um and I I kind of yeah, it is definitely a bit darker. Um but I kind of like that in a quote clean way, like this song can come from a very different place emotionally than maybe something like Mabel's Take It Home, and yet still be enjoyable and still be kind of interesting and poignant and fun. Like that first line about having turning the hat to the back, I was like, oh yes, this this is what I want. But yeah, there's a lot of wordplay. There's a lot of double meanings. There's a lot of just really interesting lyrics. I love looking through them and reading them, and this I like this song a lot.
There's a lot crammed in there. Well, I'm not sure this is the one I like the most musically. This is probably the biggest, like, thinkiest song on the album for me. Lots of Pokemon references in there. Some of them more direct than others. There's one part where he says, this is how how the Team Rock, which is obviously a play on Team Rocket. And there's actual Pokemon names. You might not notice them right at the beginning, near the beginning. Rattata's Arbok. These is Arblocks, which that last part there actually has a bit of a multiple meaning, not just being sort of
Yeah.
in the an urban environment, but also could be taken as a little bit of a reference to Pokemon Go, in a way, if you want to stretch it a little bit there.
Yeah, that
Um,
section is like triple decker wordplay going on there. I love it so much.
he really did cram a whole lot in there. You can kind of tell, not to belittle some of the other artists, but three of the artists, Sin and Mabel and Vince, all did interviews about their experience with Pokemon. And you can kind of tell, not to say that Mabel and Sin aren't true fans, because they seem to connect with Pokemon on a more emotional, feely level, whereas Vince seemed to have more of a direct knowledge of a lot of the names and places and stuff in there, which I think was more what the hardcore fans wanted to kind of hear with that. But he definitely, did more of that in there. One thing we should probably mention is, there are seemingly some jungle references. Watch out for the, snakes and the rats or whatever it is in the grass and stuff like that, which, I just want to briefly mention, can be a little problematic if we're connecting the Secrets of the Jungle, because that's based on Tarzan, which is I did check that it is based in Africa, and then the main Pokemon character is in fact a monkey, which, we have an African American artist, which can be a little dicey there. I did kind of want to mention that. I don't think Vince really, it's not horribly distasteful, I don't think, but you always want to be careful around that territory, and I wanted to just mention it briefly. But in any case, that was sort of the parallel I drew to that specific movie there. Now, obviously, we were kind of talking about the urban jungle as well in this song. I don't know, Anne, any ideas about that, or?
I definitely felt more urban jungle. Again, this kind of evoked more detective Pikachu vibes in me than Secrets of the Jungle. I mean, I definitely can see the possibility that some of, knowing that Secrets of the Jungle was coming out did maybe influence some of the writing. Um, but yeah, going back to the lyrics and everything, like just, I really appreciate that they had rappers on this album as well as, upbeat pop and, as you say, more, lyrical feely music, all the things, just because a really good rapper like adds something different musically to the lyrics than other types of musical artists have, and I'm very glad that we got like a wide spectrum of musical styles because of that.
Yeah, and I guess one particular line I wanted to mention as far as Secrets of the Jungle, I mean, this is probably a coincidence the more I think about it, but one of the darker lines that people always point out is, lost a few friends to the streets, which in some cases means those folks passed away. and stuff like that. It sort of depends on what exactly you mean there. Um, but you know, spoiler for the movie, there is a scene in there where obviously it takes place in a jungle and not an urban environment, but there is a vehicle-based death scene in Secrets of the Jungle, which makes that line hit a little bit different once I had seen the movie. Whether that was intentional or not, I'm leaning towards maybe, probably not, but it's just one of those things that sort of connects there. I don't know. Anne, did you have any thoughts on that?
Um, just that when we were talking about Secrets of the Jungle, like there were a lot of dark and sad things in that movie. People died and people seemed to be going through an emotional crisis, and there was a lot going on. And again, like it's just interesting that the song, intentional or not, can kind of reflect that, sometimes sad things happen in the Pokemon world.
And then I guess one more lyrical thing I wanted to mention. This song is called Got 'em, but the phrase that's used repeatedly in the lyrics of the song is catch 'em. So that was a little bit of a non-alignment or whatever you want to say there, misalignment perhaps. I'm not sure if they chose that or if there's an alternate like first title for it. I don't know. Did you notice that, Anne, or?
I did. I'm still kind of thinking about um what the impetus for that might be. I'd love to hear him talk about if there was a particular reason for that choice, and if it's a creative one. I'm still, armchair analyzing this song, so I haven't quite figured out a reason for that I can think of yet.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of note that as a bit of an odd disparity because I think as a result, the title of this song, I don't know that it's ever actually said in the song because of that little mismatch or whatever. All right, well, let's go on to Anne's third pick, which is Reconnect by Yaffle. This artist, I did look a little bit myself. This, I think, is one of the ones that does not have a Wikipedia page, which made things a little bit more difficult, I think. And actually, there are a couple of backing artists on this one as well, including like a Japanese one, if I remember correctly. Anne,
Okay.
can you quickly summarize all of that?
Okay, so Yaffle is actually a let me pull up where this went. So it's actually an artist called Yoki Kojima. So that's where you got your Japanese influence. He is a kind of solo artist based in Japan, and producer, rapper. He's worked with a number of Japanese artists, kind of starting his own label, and has worked with such artists as Shibasaki Ko, even started playing piano at age 6. Got involved with brass and concert bands in high school, and seems to have carried on with music ever since. Since 2010, has been kind of producing and releasing both solo and for other artists. So yeah, he does have kind of a Wikipedia page and Instagram, all the usual things, but it's all in Japanese. So that is going to make searching for his information a little more difficult. But it looks like he speaks English. So if you are able to connect with him at any point, listeners out there, I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you.
Yeah, I do appreciate the sort of diversity of artists on this project. We'll talk more about that when we go over our general opinions on it. But and let's talk about this song itself. It one thing I noticed about it's very busy. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's some game sound effects. There's what I kind of have called the electric kazoo. I'm not sure if that's exactly what they were going for. But why don't you kind of describe what's actually in the song there?
Okay, so yeah, busy is the right word. I did love the sampling of like original gameplay sounds. I love the interspersing of English and Japanese in here. I There's a lot of this song that is like the general theme is kind of, again, that we're on a challenge and we're going to rise to the top and cherish every moment along the way, and hardships coming, but friendship and loyalty and love will get us through. But it is just peppered, like from top to bottom, with references to Pokemon game mechanics. They talk about your HP going down and fog and your regions and riding waves and surfing, and it's just jam packed full of Pokemon references. Like there's no rare candy in real life. It's this is a busy song lyrically, is a busy song musically. There's a lot of samples and a lot of bizarre instruments and electronic noises, and it is wild.
Yeah, as you might have guessed from some of my earlier impressions, I don't hate this song, although if I had a kid and this was their favorite one they listened to on repeat, maybe I would. This was a little bit busier than I kind of would like. I don't mind having game sound effects. I think that stuff is actually pretty good. I think some of the noisier instruments, though, that they use, like, I don't know if it's really a kazoo or some other distortion type effect, but that was a bit much for me in places. So, but I did certainly appreciate a lot of the game references and this having a lot of game content. I'm not sure. This is one of the ones you can only get on the digital edition. I don't know if that was a choice made based on a rights issue or stuff like that, or how that sort of fell, I guess, to the sort of the bottom of the totem pole or whatever you want to call it, and got cut from the things there. But definitely an interesting one. Anything else you kind of wanted to share about it?
I agree with you. Like, it's definitely not one you want to listen to on loop a lot unless this is really your jam. But I do like, again, there's just something about it that reminds me of that kind of audacity that I love the original series for, when there's just so much, and not all of it works 100% of the time, but like there's a lot of feeling and love for this franchise just poured into it. And that's what I get out of this song. Like there's a lot of people just pouring the love they have for Pokemon and the talents that they have and the things they do best into this song. And they made something really fun. And for that reason, I do love this song. But as you say, I may not listen to it on repeat all the time. Give it a break now and then.
Yeah, 1 second here. We got a comment in the chat room. I'm going to try and...
Oh, boy.
I think we might have a bit of a mistake here. So,
did I make a mistake?
Not you. No, I think John may be thinking of a different music video than what we have here. But excuse me. But John Barton, one of the folks in our chat room here, mentions I love the "Stand By Me" call out, and I'm not sure if that's in. Is there a lyric about that? I know that that's displayed in the music video from last year, the "Bump of Chicken" song, or whatever that's called there. Yeah, okay. So that's he was thinking of something else. That's not actually part of Pokemon 25. At some point, by the way, speaking of all the music video stuff that's been done for this, I do want to do an episode where we talk about official Pokemon music videos for various songs. Yeah, John just sort of admitted there. That's okay, John. That is one that eventually I do want to talk about. "Stand By Me" is referenced in that video and actually in some of the stuff, one of the things on TV in the original Red and Blue games. But
yeah.
So 1 second here. So let's see. All right. So we'll probably move on to my third pick here. But that's okay, John. We all make mistakes. And we need to talk about that song and that video at some point in the future. All right. Well, excuse me. Well, in that case, why don't we go on to my third pick, which is "Wonderful" by Sin. Now, Sin, we did talk a fair bit about her in our Secrets of the Jungle discussion, since she does the opening and ending Western, or the English version of that. Just to briefly summarize, she's originally from Michigan, sort of was mentored by Katy Perry and stuff like that. And so this is yet another song by her. It was released around the same time as some of the other stuff over the summer, as far as when it first came out. This one has a fair bit of Indian influence, kind of as well. It's got a theremin, if I remember correctly, and it has very ethereal, but in a different way than one of the other songs I mentioned. Um, going about that, sorry, but in a different way than one of the other songs where I used that word. This one has a very atmospheric sound and stuff like that. And what was your sort of reaction there?
Oh goodness, this is just such a beautiful song. Like, I I like the ethereal quality to it, but it still kind of has a very catchy and pop-esque melody to it. And the lyrics are beautiful. This is a beautiful song, and it definitely I can see ties to Secrets of the Jungle with this song.
Yeah, yeah, we'll definitely talk about that in just a little bit. The
Yeah,
first thing
sorry.
I want to, that's okay. The first thing I want to point out, though, is there's a lot of lines that have very quick stopping things. Fishes that swim in the blue, and there's a stop, and then she usually has like a one-word expression that goes after that. And there's a lot of that in this song. I assume that that's definitely struck you as I don't know if important's the right word, more like a major part. I'm not sure exactly what word I want to use there, but I assume you noticed that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I really like the rhythm of these lyrics.
Yeah, definitely attention grabbing, which I assume was part of the point there, as if someone is going through an experience like that. Um, and talking about Secrets of the Jungle, I think that this song is partially like I don't know if this song was at one point intended for use in the movie at some point and it just wasn't needed or got bumped somehow or something like that. Like we've theorized about one of the other songs on here, Art Show by Tierra Whack might have been intended for the My New Friends scene in Secret to the Jungle, just given its duration and some of its content. This one seems to be about Coco and Dada Zarud, if you want to look at it that way. But just let me just list off a few of the things here. Um, I feel it's either big and small or small and big. I think it might be small and big at the same time, which I think is an accurate depiction of sort of Coco's experience being, smaller than his dad, his adoptive dad, but also bigger than some of the Pokemon he deals with and stuff like that. It could also be for Dada Zarud, who is not the biggest, bigger than Coco, but not necessarily the biggest Zarud in the group there. Um, Fishes that swim in the blue. I know we go underwater in a few parts. I assume there's at least one fish there. Eggs hatch when they want to, which is a general game mechanic in Pokemon, but also there's the Celebi egg or whatever it is that's mentioned in there. That was one of the things that caught me when I heard this the first time. I knew there was like some eggs involved in the movie or something like that, even though ends up being like Celebi itself, a very minor part. Um, oh, laying in the green grass, which we do see the two of them like that. And a couple other things I'm probably forgetting here, but sometimes it hurts when it's true, which there are some hard truths that get put out in that movie, lost and found at the same time. This you match this up. I have to figure either she saw the movie and this was written potentially for it, and just wound up getting kicked over to the album itself for one reason or another. Or this is since we're a miracle, like the biggest thing there, the biggest coincidence ever. I don't know. Anne, what are your kind of observations here?
Definitely, but both lyrically and emotionally, like this feels like a song that could have played under the credits of Secrets of the Jungle. And especially just since so many Pokemon movies have this like about like, we are all connected as part of something that is bigger than anyone. We're connected to nature with the fish that swim and the stars and the sky and the moon and I don't understand it, and like everybody on this planet being alive at the same, like these are miracles. Like these are all very Pokemon has been preaching this gospel for a long time, and like it feels very specific to Secrets of the Jungle, but it also could fit a lot of Pokemon movies in that sense. So yeah, I definitely think there's a case that if it wasn't made with that movie in mind, it's the biggest coincidence out there. Because it just fits so well, the way you feel after you watch that movie and then the credits start playing.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you go line by line in that. There's just so many parallels. About the only one I can think of that doesn't quite work is like have you like hanging out the window or something like that. I don't know if there's something like that in the movie, but it seems like virtually everything else has some sort of parallel, either with Coco or with Dada Zarud or the two of them, or even with Ash and stuff like that. You know, Lost and Found at the same time. I don't know if I mentioned that one yet, but that certainly fits in there. And I would love to know if this was intended that way, or if other songs in here, or if they nudged folks, you know, into having those jungle metaphors, like in Katie's video where they have the tropical Hawaii setting, which I'm not sure if that's technically a jungle, but it is very, very similar. And sort of the some of the other stuff, like you mentioned Celebi in the Take It Home video, and the jungle allegories in Vince's song and stuff. Some of the other ones, not nearly as much that you can sort of draw there. They seem more general Pokemon stuff there. But I we'll talk about this more in our summary. I find it very odd that this wasn't more explicitly tied in the marketing.
Yeah, like knowing how big Pokemon is and how good they are at their branding game, like I'm always surprised at just how many coincidences there actually are with things like these. So, but I'm sure there was at least a little bit of brand synergy going on and being like, you know, like executive notes like, hey, maybe include this, or like, what about this thought, to kind of add a little bit of connectivity.
Yeah, so let's sort of talk about our overall opinions and observations about this project and this album and whatnot. As you can probably tell through all of this, that Anne seems to have enjoyed the album a bit more than I did overall. I didn't really hate any part of it, but I think to summarize, there were a lot of songs I liked. Not many I would say I loved. I think my favorite song to listen to is "Wonderful" by Sin, and like I mentioned, the most thinky one in there is Vince's "Got 'Em" song. Certainly, you know, does that there. So that was kind of my overall opinion there. And it sounds like, I don't know if you liked every song on this album, probably, or loved every song on this album, but it sounds like you got more out of it than I did. And I'm not sure exactly why that would be.
Well, yeah, as you say, I definitely didn't love every song. And there are some that I will definitely listen to more than others. But I definitely, and it will be interesting to see what I think of it, you know, 10, 20 years from now, in the same way that, you know, when the first movie album came out, I loved and appreciated a lot of it, even though I didn't necessarily love every song on the album. But my feelings towards each of those individual songs evolved and changed, sometimes even because of doing this podcast and talking about them. I definitely appreciate a lot of the thought that went into this album. Like I say, I don't necessarily love a lot of rap music, but like I really appreciate good lyrics. I appreciate good wordplay, and Little Yachty's song like is really interesting, and Vince Got 'Em, that song, that's fascinating to me. I love that there is a French track on this album. I love that there is a Spanish track on this album. And just showcasing different artists from all around the globe. I love that they have Japanese songs on here, but they're speaking in English. There's a lot of really interesting things going on here that I appreciate. Again, I don't necessarily love each song personally on an individual level all the time, and I will definitely listen to some of them a lot less as the years go by. But I think as a big 25th anniversary global event, this is a fun album, and a lot of good came out of it, I think.
Yeah, going back to some of the foreign language stuff you talked about, as much as I love the pop soundtracks of the first two movies, and to be quite honest, I do like them more than this particular one. Even if you like throw in the Secrets of the Jungle EP, we'll see how things change over time. I do have to appreciate that although those first two movie pop soundtracks have pretty good female representation, with a few notable exceptions, they are both very white. Um, I mean, there are some notable exceptions in there. There's like obviously Donna Summer from the second movie. Christina Aguilera is half Latina, and Elliot Sloan, the lead singer of Bless You Souls, is African American. But other than that, there isn't a ton of non-white representation on those two albums. Versus this one, which has a more diverse thing, including some foreign language songs, which would on those soundtracks would have been normally relegated to like the foreign overseas versions of those albums or stuff like that. Here you get them, and I kind of wish I knew more Spanish to talk more about I think it's J Balvin's or whatever it is song there. And Game Girl Luan, the French song, which has a neat little music video there. So that's I do definitely appreciate that. Now, one thing we had mentioned earlier is that although this album came out a week after Secrets of the Jungle, and there's definitely at least one song that seems very closely patterned after it, and some other songs or / music videos that have some things that seem to be a little more than a coincidence in terms of jungle or other ties to the movie. This was not, as far as I can tell, really marketed as like, oh, the stuff from the EP that was from the motion picture, this is inspired by the motion picture. This is still pretty much just marketed as Pokemon 25. Now, they did have a Twitter Q&A session that people could submit questions to. I did submit the question. I noticed there's a lot of jungle references in here. Was that intentional? And that wasn't one of the questions they picked. I'm not entirely surprised there. I don't know that there's like some terrible bad blood within it or stuff like that, but there seems to have been some sort of conscious choice to not sort of promote this as an extension of the movie, even though that would probably push more copies that way. I don't know, Anne. What are your kind of thoughts on that?
Well, my first thought is with like I'm looking at the timeline for everything that released as part of their Pokemon 25th rollout. Like it's possible that they don't need it to roll, like the Secrets of the Jungle itself I don't think is actually part of that rollout. Or if it is, like it's just one tiny little thing in the larger picture. Like I think this album is celebrating so much more of Pokemon than just Secrets of the Jungle. So like I can see a reason to like they don't have to tie it to the movie. It released just a week ago before this, like we all know. Whereas the album itself is about so much more than just that movie. So I can see why maybe they don't feel they need to push it so much.
I mean, you look at the second movie soundtrack in particular, there are songs that are definitely Pokemon songs, but don't have a super tight association to the plot or themes of the movie, like They Don't Understand and blah, blah, blah. And, to an extent, even stuff like Pokemon that mention a lot of Pokemon things in there, but aren't necessarily in. So it's not like this has never happened before. It just seems like a bit of a missed opportunity. And one of the reasons I say that is I did monitor sort of the Billboard singles and albums charts for some of this to see if any of this would chart. Only Want to Be With You, the version by Post Malone, did chart on the singles chart for about a week. Got some radio airplay. I know I've heard reports of that. Electric didn't really do too much. And this album didn't even seem to, from what I could tell, make it onto the Billboard 200 albums chart. So I'm not saying it's a complete failure or anything. Some of it you got to keep in mind is a promotional expense on the Pokemon Company's part and stuff. I wouldn't say it's like if their hope was to have a something that would be regarded in the vein of a To Be a Master or a Pokemon, the first movie pop soundtrack, which sold over 500,000 copies and 2 million copies in the U.S. respectively. The music industry obviously is very different than it was 20 years ago, but I'm not sure that this quite made it as far there as they would like. Although only time will really tell. What? And before I go even further with that, any thoughts on what I've said so far?
No, I think you've said it pretty well.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to. So sorry, I kind of still need to add to that, but um, one of the criticisms of this is that some folks wanted there to be even more explicit Pokemon references in the songs and stuff like that, rather than some of the more wink and nod type stuff that's in there and sort of the draw your own conclusions type of thing there. Um, and things like that. There's always a balance there, and you also have to keep in mind this album wasn't just created for the hardcore Pokemon fans on social media. It was created to sort of serve a broader audience, and we can debate whether it did that, how successful it was at it in that regard. And I think that's something that will only be written with the passage of time. So let's see. I guess the other thing I want to mention is, do we want to see more stuff like this in the future? As far as like doing an album like this every year, it's probably not something we're going to see for a while, but I would be more interested in bringing in some of the more well-known artists for like the TV theme song and the movies and stuff like that. Now that they've hopefully got some better connections, hopefully this did well enough that they keep doing some of that, like what they did with some of the English songs in the Western version of "Secret to the Jungle." That I would like to see more of. Not the folks that they use for other stuff aren't talented; they are. But I think another aspect of this is seeing all these musicians contribute to this album gives a little bit of like social validation, and I think that's an aspect of this too. And what's your opinion on all of that?
Yeah, like as you say, I don't think seeing an album like this every year is a possibility or something necessarily that we want. But this was, as I say, like I got a lot of value out of this, and it definitely broadened connections, as you say, within the music community and Pokemon, which can lead to more collaborations in the future, more opportunities for both new and famous artists to both contribute to Pokemon in the future. So yeah, I would like to see more good things come of this.
Let's see. Oh, I had a thought and it escaped my head. Give me a second here. That just dropped out of my head. It's right there, and I kind of forgot what I was about to say. Give me a second. I knew it was something kind of important. I wanted to squeeze in there. Um, oh gosh, now I can't even remember. It'll come to me later,
Yeah.
probably. What I wanted to say about the discussion. It was something about the reception of the album. Well, unfortunately, it has totally slipped my mind, and it will probably come back to me later. We're not really planning on doing a post discussion on this one, just because it's there's not like an alternate take we can really put in there. Um, but I guess what we'll do now is I'll move on to the feedback section, and maybe that thought I had will come back to me. It's not something I have a direct note on. All right. Well, it will definitely be interesting to see what they do in the future. They have been doing a bit more. I don't know. Well, they have been doing a bit more as of late with stuff, and we'll see if that continues on. But we do have a fair bit of feedback to go through. First off, I wanted to bring something in from the chat. It's a little bit of a pat ourselves on the back, but I figured I might as well bring it in. Let's see. This is from John Barton. He did comment earlier and then realized he was thinking of the wrong music video. But he says, can't stay for long, has to do some college work, but wanted to thank us for it and really appreciate our work. Yeah, I know we're kind of patting ourselves on the back here, but we definitely appreciate that. If
Good
you
luck
have
with
any
your college
suggestions,
work.
of course, or comments, you can always post a comment on this video, or you can drop us an email at pokepress@gmail.com. We do accept thanks graciously as well, or at least we try to. Um, and then I have a few other things, so give me a second here. Got to punch up a PowerPoint. Beyond that thing we got in the chat, I do have some comments from some of our previous stuff. First off, from last month's Secrets of the Jungle discussion, we got a comment from DDD033. Really appreciate this, so I guess in our thanks there. He says he really enjoyed the Secrets of the Jungle movie, and glad we can all geek out to this, especially like the music from the movie. So, geeking out to this, obviously, this sort of venue that we have here, we're a bit more involved in the music than maybe your average person, but I do try to keep in mind that didn't quite come out right. Let's see here. Yeah, we do go into more detail with the music here than most folks would be willing or interested in. But I do always try to keep in mind some of this stuff does still affect them, even if it's subconscious. So, not sure exactly where I want to go with that. But let's see. In any event, I did ask him if he had any specifics he wanted to share, and let's see. He seemed to enjoy the lyrical content of various songs that were in Secrets of the Jungle. There are like 6 insert songs in there. We did mention in our discussion that we didn't think, at least I didn't think, the score was super impressive. It wasn't ear-splittingly bad or anything like that, but I think the phrase I came up with for that was bringing up the rear musically. In other words, it was the least impressive aspect of the movie musically. He sort of is of the mindset that, just because it's Pokemon, he thinks he is part of the reason he really likes them. And he thinks he's going to be rewatching this movie, so I think he's going to get extra attached to it. And any thoughts on that first part there?
That's true. Like, I mean, well, the songs with the lyrics in this movie also hit me right in the feelings. I am with
And I
you.
have to stop you right this second.
Oh.
Sorry about this. I have to listen to something quick. I don't know how this happened,
Okay.
but my one of the voice recorders I'm using ran out of space, which is weird because I usually do a pretty good job of managing that. So 1 second here, I got to clear up some space. So sorry, folks, it's going to be a minute or two.
Technical difficulties. Don't look behind the curtain.
So let me go ahead and Alt tab away from the PowerPoint. Go here. There we go. Voice. I thought I had well over an hour. We've been going for a while here. So give me a second.
Yeah.
The good news is since I have a voice track here, I can resync it later, but I have to figure out if we need to go back and recover some stuff. So give me a second here. I don't want the properties of, for some reason it's making me try opening up the properties window and not the folder itself. Because, let's see, where's the USB drive? That's what I'm looking for.
While he's figuring that out.
Nope.
This is something my little nephew gave to me. It's a Lego Magikarp. And it's adorable, and I love it.
All right.
That's been my entertainment.
So 1 second here. I got to grab out that. So the way this usually works is that I keep 2 recordings of stuff. One of them is on my side, and that should free up some space there. Now I need to figure out, because I just noticed it was full. That should clear out this was one of our previous discussions that I've already transferred over. Okay, so 1 second here.
You got this.
So this is fun stuff, folks.
We believe in you.
I have to fast forward to the end of over an hour of stuff here. It's coming along. It should only take about a minute or two to get to the... Oh, there we go. Now it's going more quickly. So yeah, this is fun stuff, folks. I'm not even sure exactly how long this file is because I didn't look. Okay, so we did get to the PowerPoint, so that's good. Appreciate your patience there.
Now I'm like listening to us talking. This is getting
all right. So I think we need to start the PowerPoint portion of this discussion over again. I do have another hour here, which we should not need. So let's go ahead and plug back in here. No, I do not want to cancel. I do not want to erase anything. Thank you. And hit the pause on that. There we go. All right, so I will start up the recording. The other voice recorder, I think, has plenty of space, hopefully, on there that records normally just Anne's side, but in this case, both sides. So I should be able to sync it up at least somewhat later. All right, so I will hit record again. And yes, we do have space there. So we're going to go back to the beginning of this PowerPoint because apparently that's about where it cut out. So, all right. So besides the one thing that we got in the chat there, I also have a few things up here in a little bit of a PowerPoint. These are comments on Secret to the Jungle discussion we did last month. This is from DDD033. So first off, there's another little pat on the back for us. I really appreciate you guys did this. Really enjoyed the movie and glad we can all geek out to this. Yeah, this is definitely a little bit of a deeper discussion than I'm sure most folks are used to looking at. But I always try to keep in mind when we do this, that there is an audience outside of us who watches these movies and, benefits or appreciates the music, even if they don't look as deep into it as we do. But as far as DDD033's opinion, the person says, especially like the music to the movie and has been jamming to the new tunes for a bit. I asked for a little bit more specifics on that one. Seemed like DDD preferred the lyrical content of various songs in there. Now, he does mention sort of that Anne and I were not as impressed with the score. I think the way I've come to sort of express it is that I don't think it's ear splitting or anything, but I think it is very clearly bringing up the rear of that movie musically. In other words, I think it's the least impressive musical aspect of it. DDD seems to think the opinion there is that maybe they just like it because it's Pokemon or stuff like that, is how that person feels. I don't know, Anne, what are your kind of thoughts on that?
Well, I definitely agree with the sentiment. Like when you watch something over and over and over, you spend more time with it, you appreciate it more, you notice the little things it does well more. So, if Pokemon scores like kind of grow on you over time just because the movie you watch it over and over, like that's absolutely valid. And it's possible that even though I don't particularly love the score aspect of this soundtrack, like because this is a movie I too will probably watch a lot. I may find it growing on me over time, just because I have a personal attachment to it.
That is possible, although, you know, one thing that sort of stuck out to me in this message that we got is just because it's Pokemon, and part of me, and sorry to the Shinji Miyazaki fans, like I said, I don't think his music is ear splitting or ruins the movie. I just think it does, like, they could do better and something more interesting that would be more beneficial. But the phrase I sometimes want to use and also sometimes kind of don't is un-Pokemon about it. And I don't A, that I don't like to use that because it sounds too personal, and B, because it sounds like a certain a phrase that a certain other Wisconsinite would have used back in the let's just say in the 1950s. I think what I mean when I say that is really that I don't think it meshes well with the rest of the franchise's musical direction. I think it is sort of, I don't know if beneath is the right word, but not living up or meeting up to sort of where they go elsewhere in terms of thematic elements and stuff like that. Again, I don't think the music he's composed is terrible or anything, but it doesn't really move the needle for me either. And not sure if you wanted to add anything. We've kind of discussed it to death, and since we don't know what the next movie will be, it's kind of hard to say much else about it. But
yeah, just that, like, yeah, what you say makes sense, but like, I definitely get that it's possible to like something not necessarily because it has great merit, but because it's attached to a thing that you love so much, and so therefore you love it just because it's Pokemon. Like, I
yeah,
get
I kind
that.
of understand that. And in case you didn't catch it, our commenter here seems to think that they're going to be watching Secrets of the Jungle a lot, which I think a lot of folks are. One more thing from the same person there. One thing I had suggested, I didn't pin all the blame on Shinji Miyazaki. I thought another thing they could do to improve the score, at least from my perspective, would be to work in more international elements, up to and including perhaps, when we're not in a pandemic, getting an orchestra from, whatever country or region or city the movie is set in to do the actual like orchestra performance and stuff like that, which I think would lend like the thing I don't really like about the way the scores are done now is that they seem kind of very samey between the two versus like in the main games where you get every city has a theme, although occasionally, especially in the earlier ones, they are shared between cities. And I think that the movies don't have as strong a sense of place as they could or should. And I think one way to address that without necessarily upsetting the entire process would be to, like I said, find an orchestra from whatever area or city or whatever that they're doing with. Obviously, that takes some logistical planning and perhaps more money because of the travel and whatnot. But I think it would lend some more authenticity and DDD's comments here. It's sort of in the main line that might be an interesting idea, although this individual doesn't think it's super likely. I don't know. Anne, any new thoughts on that idea?
I think I said it when we discussed it originally. Like, I'm super down for trying something new. I think that could be a really interesting way to kind of put some new life into the music and the score and the execution thereof. Budgets are the obstacle that all of us in entertainment find. So we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah, so we know basically nothing about the next movie. I have a few possible ideas, but that's, like I said, it's hard to say where they're going next. They did not do a movie this year in Japan, and I suspect some of that's the pandemic stretching their resources and whatnot. But yeah, again, any prior conversation, if you have thoughts on it, you can always post it there or drop us an email. Now, I do have one more comment here. This is kind of a brief one. So some of you may know that I occasionally will go out and write a parody of a song and rewrite it to be about Pokemon. And it's been a while since I've done this. It's been a few years, but I would actually had a few of them recorded for and put up on my channel. And this is Sai Ai, a parody of Bye 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 by NSYNC. So I guess conceivably, this is something that could have been done for the second movie if Weird Al had that idea there, more or less. But Terabyte put down, this is ridiculous. And I had to ask, is this in a good way, a bad way, or both? For those of you who don't know, Psy is a Psyduck, specifically Misty's Psyduck-based parody of the song, where we go over sort of Misty's mixed emotions regarding Psyduck and sort of its, its qualities and shortcomings and all that stuff, all in the space of a 3 or 4 minute song. Again, I guess I'm patting myself on the back a little bit here, but and I don't know, did I ever give you a chance? You've told me about this one and what your thoughts are. I'm not sure what if you wanted to add anything, but
yeah, no, I remember this song. It was very cute and fun, and I'm so glad you got it recorded. So hopefully they mean it in the good way, or at least both, because it was a good time.
All right. Sorry. All right. Well, that kind of does it for feedback for this episode. Remember, if you have a comment, you can always drop a comment on one of our videos. You can also find me on Twitter at Pokepress, or you can drop me an email, pokepress@gmail.com. All right. Well, before the movie and other stuff kind of got dropped on us and some scheduling things came up, we decided we wanted to do an episode on deconstructed Pokemon songs. And that is, barring some other major earth-shattering event, that is what we're finally going to get to with our next discussion. So, as you may recall, our last actual game discussion was Pokemon Ranger for the DS, which was the last Gen 3 side game. So in between generations, we do a special type of discussion, and our next one is deconstructed Pokemon songs. We're going to be sort of removing the vocals via software and other stuff. This is something you've been able to do for a while. It tends to advance a little bit as time goes on, but in any case, we'll be listening to some. In any case, we'll be listening to some more of the background elements and whatnot. We've each picked out 3 songs, since we were kind of thinking we might be doing this a little bit earlier. The 3 I picked were "Have Some Fun with the Funk" by Aaron Carter. Let's see, "Lullaby" by Manda/Willa Ford. They are the same person. And the third one I picked is "Blah Blah Blah" by Devotion to Music. And I forget, what were the 3 you picked out?
Yeah, I picked Weird Al's Pokémon. I picked Unbeatable, which is the 8th season opening theme. And then I picked Chisaki Mono by Asuka Hayashi.
Yeah. So that'll definitely be interesting. It's a topic, we might do again at some point. But until then, Anne, thank you very much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
This has been Stephen Reich. All right, folks, thanks. Okay, now I can stop the recording. And thank you very much to everyone who made it this far. Despite, like I said, me running out of space on my voice recorder, I thought I had enough space on there, but since it still has, in case people are curious, the way this voice recorder that I used to record my side of the audio separately works is that I keep stuff on it for a couple discussions and live streams back, just to keep for archiving purposes. So it still has our 2-hour-ish discussion on Secrets of the Jungle on there. So that's one thing that's taking up space. I should get a bigger memory card for it. And then I keep another thing that is sort of, usually it's just Anne's stuff as a backup, even though she has her own stuff there. The way we're recording it now, it had to be the combined audio. But let's see here. Go ahead and exit out of the slideshow. But we do hope to get that deconstructed discussion in next month, if possible, by the end of the year. But let's see, I'm not sure how much else we had to cover here. Yeah, it was a lot of material for this one. I'm not surprised it went like an hour and 15 minutes. But hopefully our sound setup was a little bit better than usual. Like I said, I am using a different device to actually send my audio in here. So we hope that all worked out for you. Let us know. And any other parting thoughts before I end the broadcast?
No, thank you everybody for joining us.
All right. Well, like I said, see you around. And if you have any comments, go ahead and toss those in there. All right, folks. Thanks.